You got Mac here and Mac. That sounds good. Jody McDonald, John McMullen, and Glen Macnow, who's given us his best Santa look. I did a show with you on Sunday, but neither one of us were in studio together. You're looking good there, brother. Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, man.
I'm in a play now, and I have to play somebody who is a hermit who hasn't shaved in 20 years. So I'm going to do as best I can in 5 weeks.
Nice. That's a dream job, Glenn. Yeah.
There you go.
Be
That's
a hermit.
right.
Just let it go, man. Yeah. Where are you with this Philadelphia Eagles team? Because it seems like they're letting it go. I'll start with the head coach. I mean, your basic thoughts on how he's handled this situation, because I'm not a big fan of how it was handled.
Are you talking about the defensive coordinator specifically?
Yes.
Yeah, really poorly. Clearly. It certainly seems a panic move to me. In fact, I think the defense played better yesterday up until that disastrous last drive. It may, in fact, be that they end up playing better without Sean Desai, but it still was handled very poorly. And I think the bigger issue with the defense all along has been personnel as opposed to coaching.
Now, John has harped on this a couple times, and he's dead on right, and I'll double down on it. In just judging, and it's one game. That's all we had. Maybe a couple practices. John thinks they implemented it as of Thursday before they had a full-blown practice, which they don't usually do. I don't know that the defense was any better last night because of Matt Patricia, because they weren't facing Purdy and C-Mac. They weren't facing CD Lamb and Dak Prescott. They're facing Drew Lock.
Yeah.
So
well, that's
you
true.
need to
so, I can only go on what I saw. You're right. If they had faced one of the elite quarterbacks in the league, how would they have performed? Obviously, you would expect that they would have played worse. So I can only go on the fact of who they played, and I was generally encouraged. Again, up until, how'd you enjoy the play? Before Lincoln got shot, it was great. And then Lincoln got shot. And it ended disastrously. And, Bradbury couldn't cover me at this point. But, my bottom line, I think my bottom line may be a little bit different than yours in that as clumsily as it was handled, I think there may be a little bit of hope for that defense moving ahead over the course of the next 3-4 games.
I'll say this, Glenn, from a leadership standpoint, we always hear and you got businesses, you got to show a steady hand, and in times of turmoil, you don't run around and scream at the top of your lungs and change everything at the first sign of adversity. This team had the best record in the NFL for 32 consecutive regular season weeks. First time in 33 weeks they don't have it today. That's pretty good. As Jody points out, improvement over the final month on defense was baked into the equation. And what I mean by that is it's Drew Lock in Seattle. Geno was banged up. It's Tommy Cutlets twice. It's Arizona. It was baked in. It was going to be better with Sean Desai.
Yeah. I don't think that's what they were looking at, though. I think when they were looking at the playoffs, I think what they almost see now is the 3-4 weeks to get it right when you have to go to the playoffs and play against Prescott or Purdy again or someone like that. It's not that they don't think they can beat Tommy DeVito. It's that they think, okay, are we going to go into the playoffs and be one and done? With this defense, we are. Now, I'm going to repeat what I said before. I think it's more a problem of personnel than it is coaching.
Yeah, I agree.
Although it became obvious last week that the players were really unhappy, and a lot of the stuff that they said, that Sweat said, and that, forget Slay. Slay's always being Slay. That Bayard said were that they had problems either with the game plan or understanding their role during the game or various parts of it. And so I think that's what got this thing going.
See, you took that Slay quote differently than I did, because I thought it was a really attention-grabbing quote that he didn't expound on, so you had to decide for yourself. His quote was along the lines of, we're just not used to not helping each other out, that we help each other out.
Yeah.
You took that to mean that the system wasn't helping each other out.
Yeah, I think that is scheme.
I kind of took that as an indictment of his teammates, that he was throwing his teammates under the bus going, yeah, the guys aren't staying in their roles, that everybody's got a lane they're supposed to be in, and guys are one-on-one in it, are playing hero ball, and I'm trying to do my job, and I can't because others aren't doing their job. I thought it was more a shot at his fellow teammates than it was the coach. You read that different, huh?
Well, Jody, this being Darius Slay, of course, there's always, the chance that it's the most self-serving thing it could possibly be, which aligns more with yours than mine, certainly, because Darius is about making Darius sound good.
Right. Yep.
So I hear that. I do hear
Slay.
that. Yeah, I'm sorry. Can't call him by his first name. Pardon me. However, it goes beyond just him, and I threw him in there, but I think Byard's statements, the defensive backs wanted to create their own game plan. Well, that's certainly an indictment of the defensive coordinator. And Sweat, after the game, the last game, apparently, in the locker room, said some things, and I can't repeat them verbatim, but it was basically,
basically.
Right, we're not really helping each other out, and I took it as scheme. So I that's what I think happened. Is it fair to Sean Desai? No, of course it's not. He's a young guy in his first year. We expect rookies to come in and have rough spots and get better when they're players, but we don't give that same luxury to coaches. So I think Sean Desai may or may not be a good coach moving forward, but it's unfair in that sense. Except, again, they think, and last night doesn't help argue the case at all, but they think, okay, look, we got to get it right to get into the playoffs. Let's make the move now so that when it's January, everybody will know what's going on.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, one of the issues, Jody took it one way. That's a perfect example. Glenn, you took it another way. This opens up, the way Nick Sirianni handled this situation opens up all these questions. So when he gets the question of what about the offensive play caller? And he said, no. Well, you have no credibility. So you're going to get these questions. So from the larger perspective, I think he created a lot of issues by scapegoating one particular coach. And there will be more if they don't live up to those expectations. But going back to last night's game on the field, Glenn, as you mentioned, up until the play was great, up until the end, wasn't great, but the
defense was pretty good up until the end.
I think the defense played well enough to win. I put more of the blame on the field for last night on the offense. Agree or disagree?
Oh, absolutely agree. I mean, Seattle's defense, this ain't the Legion of Boom anymore. This was a defense that you're supposed to go in and put up 30 points. That's Seattle's metrics, their stats going into last night. They're in the bottom 10 in the league in pass defense, run defense, touchdowns allowed, everything. And so there was the opportunity to go in there last night and get it right on offense. And there were moments they did. But most of the time they didn't. The play calling is a part of it. I'm going to put, and you can take this in whatever order you want to discuss it, I'm going to put most of the blame on the quarterback. I thought he was terrible.
I'm with you. I said the same thing. It's time to start talking about that regression. Maybe it was the illness, but maybe, you know what? He was great running the football.
Yeah, that's why I don't think it was the illness. It wasn't the illness because it's the same problems we've seen in the last few games of judgment where, and I'll narrow it down to one specific thing, which is right at the end of the game, and there's whatever there was, 13, 15 seconds to go, and you got a couple timeouts, and you got to go about 15 yards for Jake Elliott to hit that field goal. And it's really clear what you need to do. 2 passes to Goddard, whatever you need to do, get 15 yards, kick the field goal. And he's, again, playing hero ball, throwing a really low percentage bomb attempt that got picked off, and he now does that repeatedly, and I don't understand what's in his mind when he does.
On that particular play, you think that's an AJ thing? Game's on the line, I got to talk to my guy. Because
an AJ thing in terms of Hurts throwing it to AJ.
Okay. My guy is going to make the big play.
Yeah,
that does bother me, and it hasn't reared its ugly head often. When he ever tries to spread the ball around, AJ gets upset and confronts him on the sidelines. But I have wondered all year if this was going to rear its ugly head at any point, that when in doubt, even in the double coverage, I'll throw it to AJ. He'll go up and make a play over 2 defenders. And it bit him in the rear end last night, Mac.
Yeah, I think he narrow focused on him. Now, I have not gone back and seen the film and who else was where and who else was
Guy
open.
was
But
open underneath, right
okay, fine.
underneath in his
Then that's what.
field of vision, and he didn't throw the ball to him.
Yeah, then that's the play, right? That's the easy, obvious
Absolutely.
play. Kick the field goal. Let's go to overtime, fellas.
Yeah.
And so, to your point, Jody, yes, I agree that last night, and I found that we saw it in the game before this, and more. Listen, AJ's having an amazing season, and looking for AJ more often than anybody is a great idea because he's one of the 5-10 best receivers in football. But time and place and read the field, and there's that was not the time to go for that play. It's not 2nd down and 8 in the first quarter when you can say, okay, let's take the shot. It was when you needed 15 yards to kick a stupid field goal.
And by the way, Glenn, the first interception, same thing, even worse, because he's throwing it to Quez Watkins down the field. They're moving the football,
right?
And he's got to take a shot to Quez Watkins, who know isn't going to fight for the football, isn't going to break it up in a 50-50 circumstance. That's even a worse decision.
It was a terrible decision. Look, I know last week I was among other people saying throwing it to 3 receivers all game was not a smart thing to do. You got to spread it around a little bit, but I never included Quez in that equation. I don't know that anybody did. And again, you just said it. It was a time when the offense was working, it was effective, and it was the wrong time to take that bad shot. And that's what Jalen's been doing. I remember when he came in the league, the biggest question, I think, was is he going to be able to throw that deep ball? Well, he can, but to me, right now, his judgment is really gone backwards, and I don't know why.
All right, so we sit here with the Eagles still tied for first place in the division. Their chances of getting the number 1 seed are minimal at best, down to below the 3%. San Francisco at best is going to lose 1 game. They're not losing 2. So you can kiss the home field advantage throughout the playoffs goodbye. But they need to beat Dallas for the division, and they've still got a lead in the tiebreakers and the like. They do control, quote unquote, control their own destiny. You can't really say that because it's going to come down to strength of victory. And there are other teams whose victories go up and down that you can't control. So they don't have the control of their own destiny. What are we hanging our hat on other than the teams we're playing have stunk this year, just these standings? What are we hanging our hat on that the Eagles can get this thing? I'm not even saying turned around. I'm just saying leveled off. Leveled off could do it right about now. What are we believing that will actually happen or can happen that'll be the case with the Birds for the last 3 games?
Well, I don't know that I think they will. I mean, I do think they will. I do think they will beat the Giants here next week. And if they don't beat the Giants here next week, then everybody just go home and, when does spring training begin?
Oh, that's a catastrophe.
Yeah.
If you can't beat Tommy Cutlets at home on Christmas
that doesn't
Day,
happen, well, listen, I'm not taking it as a given, John, because of what we've seen. And it could be that the bottom is really falling out. You guys are old enough to remember the coat-tight 7-2 season that finished 7-9. And, I mean, it happens. We didn't think it was going to happen that year, but it did. And so these things do happen. Let's think not. My bottom line and what you're asking me how they get right? Was that your question?
Yeah. How do they level up? They've been like this.
Yeah.
How do you at least get back? If you get back to level and you're playing the Giants, level should be good enough.
It's Jalen. It's all Jalen.
I agree.
Because the defense played as well as it's going to play last night. And again, Bradbury at the end, of the whole defense at the end, the 92-yard drive. But the defense, I thought those young kids did a nice job in the secondary.
Yeah, they did.
I was
not tackling, but
Sidney Brown. I think you can tackle better than Sidney Brown.
And I'm not, which is surprising because I thought he was going to be a guy who can hit. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say without exception, but they survived. Those guys survived last night. Yeah. The running game was okay last night. It wasn't special, but it was okay. It's Jalen, and he's got to play the way he can play. And he has had many great games in this league and terrific seasons, and that's the entire thing. He's got to return to being one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and if he does, then there will have something. I mean, I don't think any of us are booking tickets to Las Vegas right now.
No, no. You mentioned personnel, and I agree with you, Glenn, defensively. And I want to bring Howie Roseman. We all crowned Howie two-time executive of the year a little bit too early. I think if you go back to last year, it worked out. They needed some help. They get Linval Joseph and Dominican Sue. It worked out pretty nicely. This year, the Band-Aids have not worked out. And Shaq Leonard, you know, they're playing three safeties because they don't want Shaq Leonard on the field. Bradley Roby, he made a nice tackle on DK Metcalf, but they don't even feel comfortable enough to put him on the field third and long. Maybe that's why they can't stop a third and long. I don't know, because they have the young kids out there. Julio Jones, nothing.
Nah, just a body.
On and on and on. Who am I
Bayard,
forgetting, Jody?
Bayard to me
Bayard,
is a huge
Bayard
example
hasn't
of,
even
right.
been impressive.
They brought him in. He's got nothing left. Yeah.
Not good.
No.
What about just, you know, I've argued they should have started Sidney Brown from week one, and who knows, maybe he can tackle if you get through those startup costs by week 15. I don't know. Nobody knows.
Hey, maybe Ringo can play.
Yeah, maybe Ringo can play.
Maybe
Ricks can play.
Yeah.
They look good in coverage. Now, Ricks, I joke, got pushed into Puget Sound on that one Kenneth Walker touchdown. So there's some run support issues, but these guys got to learn. You don't practice, right? You don't hit in practice. They don't tackle in college football. So you got to learn on the job, basically. And Sidney Brown, I think, has the ability to become a good player, but you got to get those. I always use the Jim Schwartz term, startup costs. Got to get them over with. They waited too long, but bigger picture, Howie Roseman, the Band-Aids, I think he's gone too far with that, Glenn.
I think he went for what he considered was the best available. I'm going to take it back a while and say, to me, the problems began in the offseason. And it was priorities, and they let TJ Edwards go. And they let CJ Gardner-Johnson go. And I know Johnson's original contract demands were kind of crazy, but he did sign for much less. Now, he got hurt, so, I can't tell he's having a great year. I think he's supposed to be back.
He's supposed to be, they started his practice window this week.
And TJ Edwards has had a great season. Now, I also understand the dilemma of being an NFL general manager, which is you have a salary cap and you have to prioritize, and they've done well over the years by not prioritizing linebacker and safety. But this year, that's really killed them. The linebackers they had, maybe with the exception of Cunningham, really haven't played well. The safeties, well, they got hurt, and you don't have much going on there. And to me, it was the off-season personnel decisions that really hurt you there.
All right, then I'm going to go off-season with you since you went there, and I'll take whatever crap I have to take for looking past the rest of this season.
Ooh.
They could get beat by the Giants this week, and then oh my God, we'll panic set in the streets.
Oh,
when we get to the offseason, either free agency, and the Eagles are in okay cap space because Jalen starts to make that quarterback money now, so it's not like they're gonna have this big hand to play. So it's gonna need to pick a guy who's reasonably priced and have him overachieve rather than just, here's the best guy, we're gonna outbid everybody, people want to come play for the Philadelphia Eagles, we'll get our guy. First round draft pick, let's say all players created equal, any position you want, they've all got the same exact grade, you're just filling a need. What position do you think Howie Roseman's going to put on the top of his wish list?
How old is the center?
But his backup is the left
36.
One. Okay, how old is his right tackle?
32 or 3. I forget where Lane is.
Yeah, I think when in doubt, go offensive line. Well, let me think about it for a second. All right,
that's what he always does. You're right, Glenn. You know.
Well, hold on. I mean, I said that you're not going to go receiver. You're clearly not going to go running back. So offensive line, yes. Maybe you go defensive line, but you've invested in the last 2 years at the top for the defensive line, those big tackles. I mean, maybe you go if there's the opportunity to get a a pass rushing defensive end, maybe you go there. They haven't drafted a linebacker in the first round since 1978. Don't anticipate they're going to break that streak.
Jerry Robinson. Let's
There
get the
you
Jerry
go.
Robinson
That's the guy.
reference. Yeah.
Well, maybe corner. Hello. Well, let me back up. Let me adjust my thinking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Depends.
They're going to need to replace both cornerbacks.
A couple years ago, they wanted J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain.
Yeah. I'm gonna say cornerback 1, offensive line 2.
And I might say safety, because safeties get taken in the first round.
They do now. Yeah, they do.
How about
I'm okay with that.
We had that Kyle Hamilton discussion, Jody. You and I love Kyle Hamilton, who was a hell of a player. We were
and
right
I actually, John, you're a beat guy, so you got better sources than me. That's for damn sure. I think if they weren't married to taking Davis, I think they would have taken Hamilton. I do. If Davis was not there and they had their overarching, when in doubt, go into the trenches, a guy who they really wanted for the trenches to play a specific way was there. So that's why they took him. If they don't, I think they would have taken Hamilton.
But let's look at this. Not that they're great at safety, but what do they have at cornerback for next year?
No. Well, yeah.
I tell you what they have. Slay and Bradbury. You better hope they wake up.
You know, we just talked about Ringo and Ricks did show some upside as coverage players. We'll see how that shakes out. But to count on players like that, I agree. It's probably not the best thing you can do, but at least to have some upside at corner with those two guys. We'll see how it shakes out. We got a long way to go. But one thing I think everybody said, Glenn, they're no longer, not everybody, but a lot of people I've seen, no longer a legitimate Super Bowl contender. You define that any way you want. Legitimate. Yeah. Who is a legitimate Super Bowl contender other than San Francisco in this league right now?
In the NFC?
Yeah.
I mean, Dallas is second, but they're sooner or later going to have to win a game on the road. And we saw in Buffalo how they're unable to do that. I mean, Detroit would be the dark horse there. And they really rebounded Goff threw 5 touchdown passes the other day. That to me make San Francisco the prohibitive favorite in the NFC.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Baltimore looks like the class of the AFC. Maybe my old Buffalo.
Yeah, I was going to say your club scares me. That's the team I wouldn't want to play, because if Josh Allen shows up with his A game and doesn't turn the football over, he's the toughest guy to deal with in the NFL right now.
Yeah. And they clearly had a run game against the Cowboys. It was unbelievable, 240 something yards. The Bills certainly this year had the ability to go really, really far and then break my 93-year-old dad's heart once again. I think that's what we're looking at with the Bills.
What football does.
One more of those.
Breaks people's hearts. That's what
the
it
Bills
does.
are great at doing that.
Yeah.
Take you almost there.
Buffalo with that Key Rasul Douglas edition, who I implored Howie Roseman to have interest in back when the Bills grabbed him. I think he could play here in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
He played very well for Buffalo so far. All right, so Christmas Day, where you going to be, big guy?
Christmas Day, I will be doing the pregame show right in front of the stadium. I've already done the weather scouting. It's going to be.
Have you ever done a Christmas Day before? Did they even?
Well, tell me about the weather, because I haven't done it. Glenn.
So I looked at the weather. It's going to be between 40 and 45.
That's
supposed to be clear. No, not much chance now of precipitation. But here's the fun thing about Christmas Day. First of all, Christmas Day is my wife's birthday, but we are pushing that back this year to the 26th. And on Christmas, I am taking my son, my older son, and his 2 boys, my 2 grandsons, 11 and 8, to their first NFL game.
Nice.
And
very nice.
They are damned excited, although the 8-year-old, Ben, is now in full panic mode over the Eagles, who he thought they were going to go 17-0 and win the Super Bowl by 50 points. So you know how when you're a kid and your team starts losing for the first time and you well, he's kind of in that mode now.
Yeah, ruins your whole mood.
Yeah. So they're going to go their first
don't even bring this to his doorstep. But then you have the flip side to that. When you're 8 years old or 7, and your team goes to the Super Bowl and wins in the greatest upset in the history of sports up to that point, and still 50 years later, and you think it's going to be like that every year for the rest of your life. And you haven't been back to the big dance once in 50 plus years.
There's
That could also be a potential outcome.
Joe Namath running off the field, Jody.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
That was the greatest.
Lecturing.
Well,
He was waving that finger at me going, don't do it to yourself. Don't believe it's going to happen every single year. Don't get crazy there, young man. Yes.
So I'm excited because, I mean, like you guys, you know, I generally go to games as a media guy, and I'll sit in the press box and you can't cheer, and it's my job, and I love it. I'm lucky to have the job. I love it. But to have the chance to sit in the seats with fans, with my kid and my grandsons, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, the grandson part of it, it makes it exciting. Otherwise, I'd rather be in the press box line.
Well, it's
if the
warm
grandchildren weren't
in
there,
January and December. There's no doubt about that, John.
The best thing about the last 2 years, going to Phillies playoff games as a fan. Nice to be in the press box. Nice to sit next to Glen Macnow and Johnny Sunshine, whatever. No. I'd rather sit with my daughter, scream and yell and high five someone I don't know for the right side of me when the Phillies score a big run. That is a lot of fun. Glenny Mac, always a pleasure, brother. You and I, not Sunday, because Sunday is Christmas and you'll be doing the post-game show. You're not doing it.
Wait.
Monday's Christmas.
Monday's Christmas. So you and I on Sunday. Yeah. All right.
We're on the 24th,
I'm on. You know what? I'm on
Christmas Eve edition. Yes.
I'm on before you on Christmas. I'm on from 10 to 1.
Okay,
I'll be throwing it down to you down at the link for your Christmas pregame show.
All right. Can I do a shameless plug for something?
Please do that.
I'm in this play, Young Frankenstein, the Mel Brooks
play.
It's the musical based off of the movie.
Oh,
he's doing,
I'm going. Oh,
okay,
now,
so
I love
made
Young
it into
Frankenstein.
a musical and a comedy, and it's ridiculously funny and crazy, and all the lines from the movie, what knockers, and I was going to make espresso.
Tremendous.
And so I'm in the play that started last weekend. It runs through December 30th at the Players Club of Swarthmore. For tickets, go to pcstheater.org. And I promise you'll get a lot of laughs, and it may be part of it in that I have a 4-minute singing solo on the stage by myself.
I love it.
For the first time. Yeah. There you go.
Who plays Igor? Not Igor.
The kid who plays Igor named Maddie Moorhead is hysterical. He is great in that role. And the woman who plays Frau Blucher is going to bring you to tears of laughter.
Very nice.
But I am the Hermit, and Young Frankenstein, pcstheater.org. Get your tickets and come out and see it.
Nice.
G-Mac, I will talk to you on Sunday. Thanks for getting up.
Looking forward to it, pal. See you, John.
Thanks, Glenn.
Mac. McMullen, McDonald.
Yeah, Frankenstein. I'm very excited by that. That turned my day around.
Yeah.
Tremendous movie.
What knockers? Yeah, and he said it bring back memories because it was an all-time great movie and a fun play. I'm understanding as well. All right, we thank Glen Macnow for coming on. Andrew Jacheco. We'll come back. John McMullen, Jody McDonald. We got to put a bow on this episode of Birds 365.